The audio you're about to hear was recorded in Anchor. Learn more at anchor.fm.
You're listening to Pretty Dece, the bite-sized audio blog about games, comics, movies, and more, featuring news, reviews, opinions, and impressions. So if you're a geek, we hope you think it's Pretty Dece. What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out Pretty Dece. I'm your host, Josh. Today on the show, we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yesterday we talked about the Switch as a console, and today I want to get into the one game that you definitely picked up if you bought a Switch, Zelda. When the Switch launched, it didn't, on paper seem like it had a ton of games, but it had this one super killer app, which was The Legend of Zelda, and I'm hearing now that it basically has a 1-to-1 attach rate, so almost every single person that bought a Switch has also bought Zelda, and with very good reason. This game is fantastic. Complete confession time, I haven't played a ton of 3D Zelda games. I didn't really play any of the N64 ones, didn't really get super heavy into any of the ones after that on GameCube or on the Wii. Most of my Zelda experience comes from the 2D Zeldas, so like way back on the NES. I really loved Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy Color. I really loved like Phantom Hourglass on the DS. So anything that's kind of like that top-down Link to the Past style Zelda, that's been my bread and butter when it comes to Zelda, and I've really kind of avoided the 3D Zeldas, or just haven't really gotten around to playing them. So this one is interesting because even though I haven't played those 3D Zeldas, I kind of know about them. They are popular enough games. I know the general gist of them and how they played and what they looked like and sort of what happened in them. And I know that this game is a really big departure in a lot of ways from those games. This game takes its inspiration from something like Skyrim, and really wears it on its sleeve. When you start out in this game, you go through a little, tutorial, and they throw you out into the world, and you can go anywhere. You can do anything. I really, really love that you have a quest system in the game, and they give you a quest right off the bat that just says defeat Ganon, and it gives you an icon on the map, which, eventually you walk over and find is this huge castle that you can't even make it into. But from the very beginning of the game, you literally just have a quest that essentially says, go finish the game. And that really hammers the point home that you can do this game in any way that you want, and it is very much an open world. It is very much a choose your own adventure. You can go head off in a direction. That's kind of what I've done. I've sort of like followed my own little flight of fancy and went off on one tangent for a while and found a horse and kind of went down this whole path, and then decided, okay, let's start down kind of the main storyline, went after some of the divine beasts and I'm tackling those. Went on a hunt for shrines for a while to, build up my stamina and build up my hearts, and you can kind of just sort of go off on whatever tangent. It's great. I really, really like that they have incorporated some of those Western elements in games, things that they get from like Fallout or Skyrim, but they still maintain that Zelda charm, that kind of inherent Japanese anime kind of wackiness to it. That really Nintendo is the only one that can pull something like that off. You get those things where, when Link is cold and you go into the menu, he stands there and shivers while you are looking through your items. Or when he cooks, it plays the cute little cooking song and then he dances when it's done. Or your horse, which has a mind of its own, which kind of, will neigh and sort of turn and kind of try to like go off the path. And, most games wouldn't incorporate anything like that and wouldn't have those fun little interactions. And these are peppered throughout Zelda and really take it from just a blatant ripoff of a Skyrim or of a Fallout or of any open world game and give it that heart that Zelda games have always had and should have. And this game is also doing a lot of really interesting things that make it more than just a blatant ripoff of an open world game. But that's the thing that I love the most, is that little, hint of charm, hint of characteristic there. One of the other cool things that Zelda does, and really surprised me when I started playing this game, I had tried to avoid most of the coverage of the game ahead of time, but this game has like a kind of impressive physics system. So you'll find that, when you hit an enemy and you're on a hill and you knock them down, they'll roll down the hill. The same is true for you. You'll roll down the hill if you get knocked down. If you see something hanging from a rope that you would like to drop onto some enemies, feel free to shoot an arrow and cut that rope, and you'll see that it will fall. If you're carrying a torch and you want to light some grass on fire, go ahead. The game will let you do that. You'll start a little fire. All of those, physics and fire interactions feel exactly as you would expect them to feel, and don't feel like they're being gamed. Obviously they are, making it so that it works out correctly and that it's fun for you, but it feels like it should, and it feels like you would expect. And that's actually a really, really fun thing. And sometimes you can do really cool stuff in battles, with the physics system. So, as I said, I've done interesting things where I've dropped things on enemies, or I have thrown giant boulders that then have landed on explosives, which have blown up an entire camp and killed all the enemies in it. I have knocked many enemies off of cliffs, all sorts of fun things like that. And that, those are the things that keep people coming back to games, and I really, really love that that's incorporated so heavily here into Zelda. The other thing that has really, really been fun about Zelda that we just discovered the other night is the cooking aspect of it. So, cooking is something in the game you find ingredients, you can combine them, and you make food, and then the food you can eat. Often it'll give you hearts, sometimes it will give you boosts in some way, it'll make you resistant to cold, it'll make you run faster, those sorts of things. I was really bad at cooking in Zelda. When you put together ingredients that don't actually make anything, they give you what they call dubious food, which it restores 1 or 2 hearts. It doesn't actually do much, and it doesn't give you any sort of added stat benefit. So I wasn't really kind of getting anywhere with cooking. And I sat down the other night with my fiance Jesse, and I can't cook in real life, and she can. And it was super fun because she was looking at my list of ingredients that I had, and just from knowing how to cook was pointing out things that I should combine and try to see if it was a recipe in Zelda. And lo and behold, she was amazing at cooking in the game just because she knew how to combine these actual real life ingredients. So that was super fun. We sat there for about 45 minutes, cleared out my entire ingredient list, and made all these, awesome, food and meals that I can eat in the game. Things that give me like 12 hearts and give me like 5 bonus hearts and like 10 minutes of, cold, resistance, and all sorts of awesome stuff like that. So, it turns out if you need to figure out how to cook awesome meals in Zelda, just find an actual cook. Finally, the last thing I love about the game is how the game looks. The Switch isn't the most powerful system in the world, but it is actually, it does a good job. The game looks fantastic. And the big thing that really drives that look of the game home is its colors. So a lot of the game has very muted colors. You look out over the grass and it's kind of a very dull green, but a big chunk of the game has colors that just look blown out. It looks like they've taken them and they've turned like the saturation up or something like that. The game kind of has a Tron vibe to it because of that. There are, these guardian weapons that glow blue, and when they do, they definitely look like something straight out of Tron. When you find a new map element and it gets downloaded to your tablet in the game, the runes that kind of come down into the tablet are glowy blue and look like something from Tron. When your weapon explodes, or when you find a spirit orb in the temple, everything is just like shards of neon blue in all directions. And the thing that I keep coming back to is that it looks like it's something straight out of Tron. And, yeah, it is gorgeous. I am loving it. So those are some brief feelings on The Legend of Zelda. If you are on the fence about the game and you have a Wii U, I would highly recommend that you go pick up the Wii U version at the very least. This is not a game to be missed. This is a change in direction for the Zelda franchise, and I think that this is hopefully an indicator of future development that Nintendo will be doing, and taking inspiration from Western games and turning those inspirations into something uniquely Nintendo. But highly recommended. Definitely check that game out. So, again, thank you for tuning in. This has been Pretty Dece. I've been your host. If you like what you